not every first draft is worth saving. Mine wasn't, and it took me 18 months to work that out. But the story was. And these 6 tests are how you tell the difference. Because you don't want to spend 6 months, 12 months, 2 years writing a first draft only to discover it's going to take you years of endless revision to make it work. And that's if you don't give up halfway through. Or maybe you did write all the way to the end, but you felt so overwhelmed by the scale of the mess that you shoved it in a drawer and you still don't know whether it's worth saving. So what I'm going to do in this video is take you through all 6 one by one, help you figure out whether your story idea is worth writing or your messy first draft worth saving. Each test builds on top of the previous one. If you can't say yes to all 6 of these, no need to panic. It doesn't mean you should give up on it. But the more tests it fails, the harder it's going to be to write a first draft that works or to turn that messy first draft around. So let's get started with number 1, the world duality test. This is the easiest test to pass, but don't let that fool you. These tests get harder. This one is about whether or not your story has 2 distinct worlds, a status quo world and a status chaos world. A world in which your protagonist goes about their life as normal, and a world that's going to bring chaos into their lives. In the Hunger Games, you have the districts, a status quo world where the population has been split into 12 of them, and you have the arena, a status chaos world where a bunch of teenagers from all districts are gathered to fight to the death. If you take The Handmaid's Tale, you have the world as we know it today, and you have Gilead, a totalitarian regime that took over the US and kidnapped and enslaved the protagonist. Now take Harry Potter, you have the non-magical world and the hidden magical one. You might be thinking, wait a minute, Jules, this only applies to sci-fi or a fantasy novel. But no, the second world doesn't have to be magical or futuristic to bring chaos into your protagonist's world. If the physical world in your story stays the same, then your protagonist has to try something new. A new relationship, a new persona at school, solving a murder or getting away with one, or something as ordinary as a new job. If we look at The Devil Wears Prada, the novel, not the film that recently came out, Andrea tries out a new job, and it is within this new world, the world of fashion, which is completely at odds with Andrea's original world, that the rest of the story unfolds and where all the chaos comes from. So for this test, ask yourself, does your story have 2 distinct worlds? A world in which the protagonist is stuck in their usual patterns, and a world that brings chaos into their lives. Now that we've established that your story needs to have 2 worlds, this next test is about the second one, the chaos world, and it is the theme duality test. This one's harder to pass because this theme is usually one of the hardest things to pin down. But once you understand the 2 types of themes that your story needs to have, this will save you months, if not years, of trying to figure out what your story truly is about. I've worked with 128 writers in the last 12 months, and chances are you're missing one of the 2. The 2 types of theme you want your story to explore are, on one hand, the world-building themes, and you'll have several of those, and on the other, one unique human-level theme. Let me explain. In that chaos world, world-building themes are what will divide your characters based on where they sit in that world. If, for example, your story explores totalitarianism, like it's the case in Handmaid's Tale or The Hunger Games, then you will have characters in power and then others at their mercy. That will be the first divider. The more world-building themes your story explores, the more divided your characters will be. But you also want your story to have one unique reason why that divided cast had to be brought together for that one specific story. And that's your human level theme. This is what most authors call the central question, or the moral truth that your novel is arguing for. Take The Handmaid's Tale again. In that chaos world, fertile women are hunted and captured to bear children for the people in power, the commanders. So through world building alone, that story divides its cast: oppression of women, religion used as a tool of control, class, commander on one side, handmaids on the other, the wives of the commanders somewhere in between and just as trapped. But the human level theme is the one thing every single one of them is up against, whichever side of those lines they're standing on. How much of yourself do you give up to stay alive? Cyrano Joy, the wife in the house where the protagonist is posted, helped build Gilead, and now she's caged by it. Alfred, the protagonist, complies and hates herself for it. Same question. different answers. So for this test, ask yourself first, do the elements of my world building, whether that's rules, hierarchy, whatever it is, divide my characters on either side of the lines? And second, despite the divides, is there one human truth that all of the characters are struggling to come to terms with? Now, seeing that play out in a book somebody else already finished is one thing, finding it in your own story is another, which is why I run a mentorship program to help writers like you turn their story idea into a finished first draft that works, one they'll know exactly how to revise. So if you want a personalized plan for your novel and regular feedback on your writing as you draft it, then grab one of this month's 3 spots if there are any left. It'll be the first link in the description. Now, that human level theme is the one most writers can't put words to. Test 3 comes at it from a completely different angle. Number 3 is the common denominator test. And this has nothing to do with comparable titles. No, for this test, I want you to ask yourself, do all my characters share a common denominator? Let me explain. A common denominator, meaning a shared struggle and a shared reason for it, is what gives your story thematic unity. And that shared reason to struggle is your human level theme from test 2. You don't find it by sitting there thinking about the theme. You find it by looking at what all your characters have in common. If you take Pride and Prejudice, every character suffers the consequences of their own pride and prejudice, someone else's, or both. But the reason why they struggle with it is because all of them feel, at least for now, that they have to perform for social approval. If you take Harry Potter, every single character pays the price of seeking worth and belonging through things like bloodline and reputation or even destiny. And the reason behind it comes down to a shared struggle, their shame around where they come from. Both Harry and Voldemort grew up without their parents, raised by people who didn't want them. Hermione overcompensates through knowledge and academic achievement to prove she deserves her place at Hogwarts despite being a Muggle-born. Or Draco, whose sense of belonging is conditional on his family name and his reputation. All right, moving on to test number 4, and if you've been following the channel, you'll know that this is one of my favorites, the dual fixations test. For this test, ask yourself this question. Does your story lead with a first goal, then introduce a second one that pulls against the first? Now, I call these two fixations, a minor and a major fixation. The minor fixation is what drives the first half of your story and introduces the rules of the world. It's the reason why your readers picked your book in the first place. And the major fixation is what's brewing underneath the surface until it emerges and keeps the momentum high to carry your readers all the way to the end of your story. And the two have to clash. In The Handmaid's Tale, at least in the novel, the minor fixation is for the protagonist to survive the ceremony and keep herself intact. Her name, her memories, her daughter. But the major fixation is Mayday, the underground resistance and what they want from her, which means she can't run. She has to stay in that house and get close enough to the man who owns her to be useful. In The Hunger Games, the minor fixation is staying alive to survive the games. It's the reason why so many readers came to this book. But they stayed for the major fixation, risking her life and the lives of people she cares about to defy and outwit the Capitol. In Harry Potter, the minor fixation is to be a good wizard and win the House Cup. It isn't until we reach the second half that the major fixation resurfaces, getting to the Philosopher's Stone, which means breaking a lot of rules, making morally gray decisions, and risking the House Cup, or worse, getting expelled or killed. Now, before we get to the 5th test, I just wanted to say that if you want to see more videos like this one, then don't forget to subscribe. Right, let's move along to the next test, the off-page start test. Now, remember when I said that the major fixation has to be brewing under the surface for the first half? I did leave one part out. It isn't really brewing from page 1. It's already brewing when we get there. Something linked to the major fixation happened just before page 1, either to your protagonist or in the status chaos world itself. In the Born Identity, we open with the protagonist unconscious in the middle of the sea. Just before page 1 is being shot. We don't know who did it or why, not until the major fixation comes in. In both The Hunger Games and Harry Potter, the off-page start is when the clock strikes midnight. By that, I mean a countdown that's just run out. For Katniss, it's the one day of the year when teenagers get sent into the arena and hers run out while she was asleep. For Harry, it's the day he turns 11, the day the magical world is finally allowed to come and get him. So for this test, ask yourself, Does your story start right after an off-page event linked to the major fixation? Is your protagonist aware of it, or is it a change in the new world they don't know about yet? And last but not least, the haunting story test. If your story fails the previous tests, you can still work out what's missing and how to fix it. But if you fail this one, you're pretty much cooked. Now, in all seriousness, this is probably the most important test in deciding whether your story is worth writing or your messy first draft worth saving. And it has nothing to do with your story being about ghosts, but everything to do with how much this story is haunting you. I told you at the start, it took me 18 months to write my first draft, only to feel a tad overwhelmed with the mess. So I stopped completely, and that draft went in the drawer for years. But it didn't really matter because that story kept coming back on the commute, at work, in the shower, at 2 or even 3 sometimes in the morning. And that's what this test is measuring. Not how excited you are about it, because eventually excitement will fade after a few months. The test is whether the story is still there when it does. So for this test, I want you to ask yourself, does this story feel like your calling, like your life purpose? And is this the one story you're committed to finishing? If yes, then you have your answer. It is a story worth writing, and it is a draft worth saving. Now, don't forget to click the link below to find out more about the Story Pickers mentorship program. I don't know a faster way to turn that story into a finished first draft that works. Also, if you're still outlining your novel, then check out this 2-hour masterclass on how best-selling authors structure their novels. So watch this masterclass, and I'll see you in the next one.